DC is I don't know if this is the official start of James Gunn's new DCU. I think the official start to that will be his movie Superman Legacy. So DC is right now in kind of a weird situation in terms of where the canon is. Fortunately, this movie seems like it could fit pretty much anywhere. Blue Beetle is DC's newest film. It is, if you are familiar with Blue Beetle in the comics, there have been, I think, 3 people who have taken up the mantle, and this is the most recent iteration of Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes. And I haven't read any of his stuff from the comics. I do remember seeing Blue Beetle show up in like old Justice League comics from like the 80s and 90s. Actually, I think I was introduced to Blue Beetle during the Death of Superman arc in the comics. This movie it's very silly. It stars almost exclusively a Latin cast, other than like Susan Sarandon, who plays the business villain. And the advertisement for this movie, because I go see like 3 movies a week in the theater, so whenever anything that AMC has on in the pre-show, I have seen it over and over and over again. And there was this one specific promo that they kept running for Blue Beetle where they had like a Latina influencer talk about the movie, and it always felt pretty like cynical to me because she's obviously being paid to promote the movie. It is an advertisement for the movie. It's not somebody giving their authentic thoughts because she clearly hadn't seen the movie yet. She is just going off of copy that they're giving her. But the way that the commercial was being portrayed was definitely playing up how he's like DC's first Latin superhero, and that's why she's excited. And like, I get being excited to see representation, but when you're being paid to do it, it just felt cynical to me. But fortunately, I did not feel like this movie was pandering in that regard. I think representation is important, but I also think that Hollywood can do it in a really ham-fisted and tacky way. Probably one of the biggest examples I can think of when representation was done in a bad way was She's Got Help scene from Endgame, when all of these female superheroes all team up to go and help Captain Marvel get the Infinity Gauntlet somewhere. And it's like none of these women had ever talked to each other before or had any interaction before, so it didn't feel earned at all for them all to team up, other than it was a big, girl power moment. That's the kind of representation that you kind of hate to see in cinema because it wasn't earned. They just threw it in your face and were like, there, see, we've got the whammons. And this is not that. The movie's set in Palmera City, which is kind of like DC's version of Miami, I guess. As I gather, like, they actually created the city for the movie. That in the comics, Blue Beetle set in El Paso, Texas, but they wanted to do like, most DC superheroes have their own city. Like the Flash has Central City, and Batman has Gotham, and Superman has Metropolis, and so they just wanted to do that. There's a lot of class divide stuff in the movie. Jaime's family, they're pretty impoverished. He's the first one in the family to go to college. There's a lot of like visual distinction between the impoverished people who live in the Keys versus the rich people who live in the big downtown section. And, there's a lot of good, like, class conflict stuff there. But everyone in the movie kind of acts cartoonish, but in a way where it's like the tone seems to fit it. Like, it's not a serious movie at all. It is a very fun movie. And I think in general, everyone acts pretty well in that regard, except for George Lopez. George Lopez plays Jaime's uncle, and the way that his character is written is fine. If they had gotten somebody else to play him who was a little more subdued, I think it would work, but George Lopez plays him so over the top that it gets really obnoxious. Especially because his character seems primarily to be there to sell you product placement, and the product placement being his Toyota Tacoma, which he has nicknamed his Taco, because, shortening Tacoma to Taco. And don't get me wrong, the Toyota Tacoma is a good car. It's called the Hilux in non-US countries. I know Top Gear has done like a whole series talking about how indestructible that car is, but it's still, an ad. and it actually features quite prominently throughout the entire movie. So I've been noticing a lot more product placement these days, and that one was pretty blatant. There's actually even like Toyota has their own commercial for the Tacoma that is a tie-in with Blue Beetle, where Blue Beetle even shows up in the commercial. Sly Deathful says, but Tacoma is a native word. Yes, it is. It's actually Tahoma is the native word or the native name for Mount Rainier in Washington State, which is where I live. So yeah, it's not a Spanish word, but still got taco in the name. I really like the rest of Jaime's family, especially the grandma. She's like revealed to be some revolutionary, and they never quite say what revolution she fought in, but like, she, if you've seen the trailer, you see she ends up getting some like big space age Gatling gun that she like, blasts some people away with. I kind of wonder, like, was she a Cuban revolutionary? Since this is set in Florida, it would make sense. Although they did explicitly say that the family is Mexican, so maybe it's something else, or maybe, the other side of the family's Mexican and she's Cuban. They don't go into it, and that's fine, because it's just, it's all very, very silly, and just, she like unties her hair and it goes down and she goes and becomes a revolutionary again. It's cute. There is some weird jokes around Jaime's name. There was like a scene where he goes and introduces himself to like a receptionist, and he says Jaime, and she responds Jamie, which is a joke that works if you're reading the name, because it starts with a J. But she didn't read the name, he just said it. He didn't hand her anything that had his name on it. He just says his name, and she keeps calling him Jamie. And that joke didn't work for me. But I think the action's pretty cool. I honestly could have gone with seeing more of his suit and the different things that it can do, but it is, he's learning to use it as the movie goes on. And the suit itself, because it's like a magical technological scarab that chooses its host, and so it has bonded with him, and it has its own voice. And I gather in the comics that there's a lot more of that interaction with Jaime versus the Beetle's own voice. And he said the name of the Beetle, and I can't remember what it was, but she's kind of just very subdued, I guess. There's not a lot to her character, because Jaime's mostly just interacting with his family and, the villains and stuff like that. But I would have liked to see a little bit more like banter with him and his suit. But, we have seen that in cinema. Like, obviously, Tony's got Jarvis, and they have banter and stuff like that. So they might have decided not to do that because they didn't want it to seem too derivative of Iron Man. The tone of the movie, though, has a weird shift at one point when we find out that the villain that he's fighting, Carapax, was recruited as a child soldier. But the actor who's playing Carapax is only like 9 years younger than Susan Sarandon, who plays like the CEO villain. And like we have a flashback of her still like looking at like a full adult. I don't even know if they bothered to CGI de-age her, because it was just a really quick shot of her. But it's like her picking up. I'm like, but this guy's in his 60s and Susan Sarandon's in her 70s. At what point did she recruit this child soldier to be her, like big mechanized prototype super soldier that she's building? that seemed a little weird to me. I think there's like one point where the movie has like, because of the comedic tone of the movie, there's one moment where there's like a big like non-comedic emotional moment that happens so quickly and is played with so much over the top emotion that like I just didn't believe what I was watching. I was just like, okay, you've just taken me out of it at this point, because there was such a tonal mismatch, and everybody in the scene was playing it with the same over the top cartoonishness that they had, but for like a serious situation. And I felt like it undercut the emotion that they were trying to inject the scene with. Other than that, the movie, like, the suit looks great. The special effects, I really appreciate how colorful this movie is. You've got your problem with like Marvel movies where everything is brown and gray. And this movie is very bright and vibrant and colorful, and I really like seeing more color in movies. So I'm glad that that they did that with this one. Will you enjoy yourself watching it? Probably. There's a lot of fun action in it. It's a very silly movie. I think it's probably one of the better entries I have seen from DC in a while. DC has had some some major misses. I haven't even bothered to see Shazam 2. I've heard it was awful, though. But hopefully, with James Gunn now in charge of DC Studios, we're going to see a little bit more heart in the DC films like this. I would recommend watching this if silly superhero movies are your kind of a thing.
Hey, thanks for watching. I'm trying to get my channel monetized, so your view means a lot. Don't forget to toss me a like and subscribe and ring the bell. I stream every Monday and Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific, so catch me live and join in on the convo. You can find all my socials in the description below, and thank you to all my patrons with a special shout out to Piftle Cakes and Ryan D. Your support means the world. Catch you next time.